The gate shuts with a dull timber thud, and in that single sound, the modern world disappears. This is Winchester around the year 951, of the most powerful fortified burghs in all of Wessex, where every wall, every fire, and every breath exists for one purpose: survival. But what did it truly feel like to live inside these smoke-darkened streets, where kings ruled through silver coins, priests ruled through fear of sin, and ordinary families survived one winter at a time? Step inside, and the first mystery appears immediately. This town was not built for comfort, yet it became the beating heart of England's future kingdom. The first thing that strikes you is the air. It is cool, damp, and permanently infused with wood smoke trapped between tightly packed roofs of thatch and timber. Winchester does not open itself gracefully like a Roman city. It folds inward narrow lanes of earth and mud buildings leaning toward each other as if sharing the burden of endurance. This is urban life in late Anglo-Saxon England, at one of its most strategic peaks. Under King Edred and his predecessors, Winchester functioned not only as a settlement, but as a royal and administrative nerve center of Wessex, where taxation, minting, military readiness, and ecclesiastical influence converged. The burh walls rising around the town are more than fortifications. They are physical memory built in response to generations of Viking terror. Even when raids had lessened, fear remained embedded in the architecture. A pig roots through discarded refuse, while chickens scatter beneath the boots of a woman carrying water. Her movement is quick, practiced, almost mechanical. Here, daily life is a sequence of obligations measured not by leisure, but by daylight and church bells. At the center stands the Minster stone, against timber permanence, against fragility. Its bells divide time more powerfully than any ruler's decree. Nearby, royal officials supervise tolls and market exchanges. Silver pennies stamped with the king's image pass from wool merchants to blacksmiths, yet barter still dominates among common households: grain for salt, iron for pottery, labor for protection. Every street reveals the tension beneath Saxon order: security inside the walls, uncertainty beyond them. The doorway is low enough to force humility. You bow instinctively before entering, and perhaps that is fitting, because inside this house, every object reminds you that life here bends before necessity. The interior emerges slowly from darkness, a central hearth glowing in a shallow pit, smoke gathering beneath the rafters before escaping through the thatch. There is no chimney, no true ventilation, only adaptation. Soot-black beams hold strips of meat suspended above the fire, turning discomfort into preservation. The very smoke that stings the lungs becomes a tool of survival. The house itself is modest, roughly 30 feet long, framed by oak posts, walls woven from wattle and sealed with daub. The packed earth floor is layered with rushes to absorb dampness and dull the odor of bodies, livestock, traces, and smoke. Furniture is sparse, because excess is a luxury this society cannot afford. A rough-hewn table, benches, storage chests, tools, wool cloaks, spoons, everything earns its place. Now the human rhythm begins. A woman kneels at the hearth, coaxing embers back to life, because if the fire dies, warmth, food, and order collapse with it. Beside her, a child feeds kindling into the flames, already learning the choreography of endurance. Another works the quern stone, grinding barley into coarse meal with repetitive, exhausting circles that define the unseen labor of Anglo-Saxon domestic life. Outside, the husband fastens a wool cloak with a bronze brooch before stepping toward the fields beyond the walls. His land is not entirely his own. Obligation to Lord Burr and King defines ownership itself. Even home is part of a wider political machine. By mid-morning, Winchester no longer feels like a settlement. It feels like a machine. Its power does not come from monuments, but from movement carts, groaning over rutted streets. Iron striking iron at the blacksmith's forge, wool bundles changing hands near the market lanes, and silver pennies passing beneath the gaze of royal officials. This is where the economic transformation of Anglo-Saxon England becomes visible. Winchester stands at the crossroads of agricultural surplus, royal taxation, and long-distance trade routes that tie Wessex to Mercia, the Danelaw, and even continental Europe. Yet wealth here moves unevenly. A reeve counts coin near the market while only steps away. A farmer trades barley for a repaired hoe. Monetary circulation is increasing under royal authority, especially through the town's minting system, but most ordinary families still live inside a mixed economy of barter duty and seasonal uncertainty. This contrast creates constant tension, a town rich in royal significance yet fragile at the household level. Inside workshops, craftsmen shape the invisible backbone of the kingdom: plow blades, nails, hinges, spearheads, horseshoes. Every object extends the reach of power. Agriculture feeds the walls protect trade, trade funds kingship, and still beneath this system lies anxiety. One failed harvest beyond the walls, one blocked road, one sudden levy from the king, and the rhythm breaks. A merchant's profit and a peasant family's winter survival may depend on the same sack of grain. That is the quiet brilliance of Winchester's economy prosperity built on constant vulnerability. Step back into the lanes, and the town feels closer now, almost oppressively so. Homes press shoulder to shoulder, their timber walls separated by gaps so narrow that voices slip through effortlessly. A baby cries in one dwelling, laughter rises briefly in another, then somewhere farther down the lane an argument flares and vanishes into the crackle of hearth smoke. Privacy barely exists. In Winchester, community is both protection and surveillance. Everyone depends on everyone else, and everyone knows when someone falls behind. The streets themselves tell the story of class and endurance. Mud clings to leather shoes. Waste collects near doorways until pigs or dogs drag it away. Children move between chores with adult seriousness, gathering wood, carrying water, watching animals, learning early that idleness threatens the whole household. For them, childhood is not separate from labor. It is training for survival. Yet there is humanity in the compression. Near the hearths at dusk, women spin wool into thread, while older men repair tools by ember light. Stories pass quietly from one generation to the next, tales of harsh winters, sea raiders, saints, kings, and ancestors who survived worse. These micro-stories do more than entertain. They reinforce memory, identity, and obedience within a society where written history belongs mostly to monks. And beyond the burr walls, darkness waits. Marshland, forest, open fields, and the unknown countryside remind every family why the gates matter. The closeness of the town may feel suffocating, but outside lies something far more dangerous: isolation. As daylight fades, Winchester's deepest power becomes visible not in its walls, but in what its people believe. The minster dominates the skyline and the imagination alike. Built in enduring stone while ordinary homes remain timber and clay. It represents something larger than architectural permanence in a world defined by fragility. Its bells divide the day into sacred order, reminding every craftsman, farmer, widow, and child that time itself belongs to God. Morning prayer, evening prayer, feast days, fast days, faith structures existence more completely than any written law most townspeople will ever read. But religion here is not only comfort, it is also discipline. Sermons on obedience, sin, and divine punishment reinforce the authority of both church and king. In a society where famine, fever, or sudden violence can erase an entire household within days, spiritual fear becomes one of the most effective tools of stability. A small wooden cross over a doorway is not decoration. It is protection against a world that feels constantly on the edge of collapse. Law moves through the same channels. Royal officials' reeves and local oath systems maintain order through fines, witness testimony, and collective responsibility. Theft of grain, livestock, or tools is never a minor offense because it threatens survival itself. A stolen iron blade can mean an unplowed field. An unplowed field can mean hunger. That is the hidden tension beneath Winchester's discipline. Morality, religion, and law are fused because the margin between order and catastrophe is dangerously thin. Night settles over Winchester in layers of darkness, broken only by firelight glowing through narrow openings in timber walls. One by one, households retreat inward. Tools are mended beside fading embers. Wool is spun in silence. Children sleep close to parents on straw bedding, their warmth shared because cold is never an abstraction here. It is an enemy. And this is the deeper truth of Anglo-Saxon urban life. History was not built only by kings, warriors, or monks, but by families who repeated the same demanding routines every day without certainty that tomorrow would be kinder. The woman preserving the hearth, The child grinding barley, the craftsman repairing a plough blade, the reeve counting coin at the gate, all are participants in the making of England. Winchester's significance reaches far beyond its walls. Its fortified burgh system, minting economy, church hierarchy, and urban routines helped shape the administrative model that later English kings would expand into a unified kingdom. What appears at first to be a smoke-filled town of narrow lanes is in reality one of the laboratories of English state formation. And yet, its greatest legacy is more human than political. It teaches us that ordinary life routine, discipline, cooperation, and faith can become civilization's strongest defense against chaos. Within these timber homes and beneath these soot-black beams, generations endured long enough to create continuity, and continuity became history itself. This is how they truly lived inside a Saxon home in 950 AD, not in comfort, but in relentless endurance. And from that endurance, England emerged.